When most people think about wealth, they imagine flashy cars, designer clothes, oversized mansions, and constant displays of luxury. Social media reinforces this image every single day, showing highlight reels of people who appear to be living extravagantly. But real wealth, especially long-term, sustainable wealth, often looks very different. In fact, some of the wealthiest individuals you might meet would never fit the stereotype. They blend in. They live quietly. They move through the world without drawing attention to their financial status. And unless you're paying close attention, you might never realize they have substantial assets, investments, or generational security. In this video, we're going to explore 7 subtle but powerful signs that someone is secretly wealthy. These signs aren't about appearances. They're about behavior, mindset, and lifestyle patterns that quietly reveal financial strength. The first sign someone is secretly wealthy is that they don't feel the need to prove anything. People who are trying to look rich often overcompensate. They wear loud brands, talk frequently about expensive purchases, and drop hints about their income or connections. But someone who is truly wealthy has nothing to prove. Their confidence doesn't come from external validation. It comes from knowing they're secure. They don't care if others assume they're middle class or even struggling. In fact, they may prefer it that way. When you observe someone who consistently avoids bragging, downplays their success, and seems indifferent to status symbols, that can be a subtle indicator of real financial stability. They understand that wealth is a tool, not an identity. Because of that, they don't use it to compete or compare. Their energy isn't focused on impressing others. It's focused on maintaining and growing what they have. The second sign is that they prioritize value over price. Someone who is secretly wealthy doesn't necessarily buy the cheapest option, but they also don't automatically choose the most expensive one. They evaluate purchases carefully. They ask questions about durability, return on investment, and long-term utility. They may drive a reliable car for many years instead of upgrading constantly. They might live in a modest-looking home in a great neighborhood rather than stretching for a mansion with high maintenance costs. When they do spend money, it's intentional. You'll notice that they don't make impulsive financial decisions. They think in decades, not days. This mindset often comes from understanding how money compounds over time. They see every dollar as something that can either grow or disappear. And because of that, they're strategic. If you pay attention to how someone approaches spending, especially big decisions, you might catch glimpses of a much larger financial picture beneath the surface. Another strong sign is that they value privacy. Wealth attracts attention, and attention can attract problems. Lawsuits, requests for loans, social pressure, and even security risks can follow visible wealth. That's why many financially successful people intentionally keep their lives low-key. They avoid broadcasting vacations in real time. They rarely discuss investments in detail. They might change the subject if conversations become too focused on money. It's not secrecy out of fear. It's discretion out of wisdom. They understand that privacy protects peace. If you notice someone who keeps financial details vague but not defensive, who avoids flaunting lifestyle upgrades, and who maintains a quiet presence despite obvious competence, you might be looking at someone who has more resources than they let on. The fourth sign is a deep understanding of money and investing. Secretly wealthy individuals often speak about money differently. They don't just talk about salaries or expenses. They talk about assets, equity, cash flow, and long-term growth. Even if they don't use technical jargon, their mindset reflects financial literacy. They understand how businesses work. They recognize opportunities. They may casually reference owning shares in companies or participating in partnerships without emphasizing the scale. Their conversations about money feel calm and analytical rather than emotional. This is important because people who build real wealth usually do so through smart investing, ownership, or entrepreneurship, not just high income. A person earning a large salary can still live paycheck to paycheck, but someone who quietly owns appreciating assets often builds silent wealth. If you notice someone who thinks in terms of leverage and long-term strategy rather than immediate consumption, that's a powerful clue. The fifth sign is that their lifestyle expenses are surprisingly controlled. You might expect a wealthy person to live extravagantly, but many of them maintain disciplined spending habits. Their monthly expenses might be far below what they could afford. They avoid lifestyle inflation, even when their income grows. Instead of upgrading everything at once, they selectively improve areas that truly matter to them. They might splurge on travel or education, but remain conservative in other categories. This restraint is often a key reason they became wealthy in the first place. Wealth grows in the gap between income and spending. Someone who consistently spends less than they earn, no matter how much they earn, creates room for investments to compound. If you meet someone whose lifestyle seems modest compared to their apparent earning potential, it may not be because they lack money. It may be because they're playing a longer game. Another revealing sign is that they have time flexibility. One of the biggest advantages of real wealth isn't material possessions. It's control over time. Secretly wealthy individuals often have schedules that look different from those who are financially dependent on a paycheck. They may work because they want to, not because they have to. They might take extended vacations without financial stress. They can attend midday events or spend time on personal projects without worrying about lost wages. This doesn't mean they're idle. Many wealthy people are extremely productive, but their productivity is chosen, not forced. If you notice someone who seems calm about taking time off, who doesn't panic about job changes, or who pursues passion projects without obvious financial pressure, that autonomy can be a quiet indicator of underlying wealth. The seventh sign is how they handle financial setbacks. Everyone experiences losses, whether it's a market downturn, a business challenge, or an unexpected expense. But someone who is secretly wealthy responds differently. They don't react with panic. They don't spiral into fear. They assess the situation calmly and adjust. That's often because they have buffers in place. Emergency funds, diversified investments, insurance, and long-term planning create resilience. When you see someone absorb financial shocks without dramatic lifestyle changes, it suggests a strong foundation. True wealth isn't about never facing problems. It's about having the capacity to handle them without losing stability. Beyond these 7 core signs, there are additional subtle behaviors that reinforce the pattern. Secretly wealthy individuals often invest heavily in relationships rather than appearances. They value networks built on trust and mutual benefit. They might mentor others quietly or support causes anonymously. Philanthropy is sometimes done without public recognition. They understand that influence and goodwill are forms of capital too. This mindset reflects abundance rather than scarcity. You may also notice that they ask thoughtful questions about other people's goals and ambitions. Instead of dominating conversations with stories about their own success, they listen. They're curious. This curiosity often extends to business opportunities and innovations. Wealthy individuals frequently stay informed about economic trends, emerging industries, and technological shifts, not because it's trendy, but because it helps them make strategic decisions. Their awareness of the bigger picture can subtly reveal experience and financial exposure. Another interesting pattern is their relationship with risk. People who are secretly wealthy usually understand risk deeply. They don't avoid it entirely, but they manage it intelligently. They diversify investments. They avoid putting all their capital into a single idea. When they take calculated risks, it's often with money they can afford to lose. This disciplined approach contrasts sharply with those who gamble in hopes of quick riches. Quiet wealth is typically the result of patience and measured decisions over many years. It's also common for secretly wealthy individuals to focus on quality and personal development. They invest in education, coaching, health, and skill building. They see personal growth as an asset that yields returns over a lifetime. While others might prioritize outward status symbols, they prioritize internal upgrades. This can show up as regular reading, attending conferences, or engaging in meaningful discussions about ideas rather than gossip. Their habits reveal a long-term orientation that aligns with wealth-building principles. When it comes to material possessions, their choices may seem understated but refined. Instead of loud logos, they might choose high-quality items that last for years. Their home may not be the largest on the block, but it's often well-maintained and thoughtfully designed. There's an intentionality behind their environment. Nothing feels chaotic or excessively showy. This quiet refinement can be a subtle signal of financial comfort combined with discernment. Another subtle clue is how they respond when others discuss money struggles. Secretly wealthy people rarely judge. They understand that financial journeys are complex. Instead of boasting about their own position, they might offer practical advice or encouragement. They speak from experience, but with humility. That humility often comes from having seen economic cycles, wins, and losses. They know that markets fluctuate and fortunes can change. This grounded perspective is a hallmark of those who have built sustainable wealth. You might also observe that they are generous in ways that don't attract attention. They pick up the bill casually. They support community initiatives quietly. They might fund opportunities for others without expecting recognition. This generosity isn't reckless. It's thoughtful and aligned with their values. Because their finances are secure, giving doesn't create anxiety. It becomes an extension of their stability. Another overlooked sign is consistency. Wealth built over time usually requires disciplined habits repeated for years. When you see someone who is consistent in routines, punctual with commitments, and steady in behavior, that trait often carries into financial management as well. Flashy wealth can appear suddenly and disappear just as fast. Quiet wealth tends to mirror steady character. It's important to understand that none of these signs alone guarantees someone is secretly wealthy. But when several appear together, the pattern becomes stronger. The absence of showiness combined with financial literacy, controlled spending, time flexibility, resilience, privacy, and quiet confidence paints a compelling picture. The reason secretly wealthy individuals often go unnoticed is that society is trained to recognize performance rather than substance. We notice loud displays. We admire visible luxury. But real financial power frequently operates behind the scenes. It's in the ownership of businesses rather than the purchase of products. It's in dividend payments rather than designer labels. It's in paid-off assets rather than financed appearances. There's also a psychological dimension to consider. People who build substantial wealth often develop a mindset rooted in delayed gratification. They sacrifice short-term pleasures for long-term gain. Over time, this discipline compounds into financial freedom. Once they reach that freedom, the habits remain. They don't suddenly become extravagant because their identity isn't tied to spending. In many cases, secretly wealthy individuals remember what it was like not to have money. That memory shapes their behavior. It keeps them grounded. It reinforces gratitude. It discourages waste. They may still enjoy luxuries, but those luxuries are chosen intentionally and enjoyed privately rather than displayed publicly. Another powerful indicator is how they negotiate. People with real financial strength often negotiate calmly and confidently. They're willing to walk away from deals that don't align with their standards. They don't accept unfavorable terms out of desperation. This willingness to walk away signals security. Itsoste, not dependent on any single opportunity to survive. You may also notice that they focus on building systems. Instead of trading time for money endlessly, they create structures that generate income independently. Businesses with strong management teams, diversified investment portfolios, rental properties, or intellectual property streams can all produce revenue without constant oversight. Someone who talks about systems rather than hustle might be operating from a place of established wealth. Ultimately, the clearest sign someone is secretly wealthy is peace. Not the absence of ambition, but the absence of financial anxiety. They don't rush decisions out of fear. They don't cling to toxic environments for a paycheck. They move deliberately. Their calm presence reflects internal security. Understanding these signs can shift how you perceive wealth entirely. It encourages you to look beyond appearances and evaluate behaviors instead. It also offers valuable lessons. If you aspire to build lasting wealth, the habits of secretly wealthy individuals provide a roadmap. Focus on long-term value. Protect your privacy. Control expenses. Invest wisely. Cultivate resiliencia. Prioritize time freedom. And most importantly, detach your identity from material display. Wealth that whispers often lasts longer than wealth that shouts. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. The same principle applies financially. True wealth doesn't demand attention. It creates options, security, and peace quietly in the background. So the next time you meet someone who seems modest but confident, reserved yet generous, calm yet capable, pay attention. You might be in the presence of someone whose financial story runs much deeper than their outward appearance suggests.